Okay, so now, okay, so that gives, let me just back up for a minute here. So that we have the Saturn graph, we see the Saturn, we can see where the effort is. There's need to be building up skills, building up skills. It's not the peak of achievement, or it's adding skills. So at the same, so we see that, then we know from the 8-year graph, there's a lot of disruptions, a lot of confusion, a lot of disorientation. She hasn't, a lot of things taking her away from working just with Saturn. Challenging her mind, challenging her value. She's changed a lot and is growing a lot through this whole time period. It's like the sun, every 11 years it reverses its polarity and the sun's cycle starts over again and goes in the reversed hemisphere. But she's just changing, it's all changing around her. So what has she built up? What has she got to hold on to? It's changing. It's hard to say whether this is, when it comes to Mars, it's what you're doing, but sometimes it comes from your work, sometimes it comes from the partner, sometimes but certainly there's disruptions coming up at this time period. But you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, it's really only the crazy disruptions stop by February of 2021, but really you're not content or happy, you're not finished reassessing things till you get past the fall of 2021. And then it starts moving forward. So I think even though things are crazy with the Uranus coming up and disrupting things, it's breaking away. It's only breaking away what doesn't belong. It's only shaking up what needs to be shaken up. But the Saturn is saying, I can't do this. This is too much. I can't do this. So you just finished taking your astrology classes through really difficult, really stressful and difficult times. That's, to my books, that helps you learn really better. That really makes it more real. However, once the classes are finished, it's possible, since Saturn is opposing Sun, there may be something you add to this. Maybe you add a writing class. Maybe you add something else to this. Maybe you take a course that allows you to work with animals more or something, or just do something like that. There's still something else to learn along this process. And that learning will be merged in with the astrology, in with what you've already learned. Just started a process of learning. You got more to add, you got more to learn until the Saturn's past the Sun. That's 2 years. So when the world's going crazy, it's nice to have one anchor that you can be working at to try and improve something. Okay, so that's how we doing? Okay, we're going to be a little bit late on this one. Okay, longer on this class. Okay, so then we got to get to the progressions. So that's the outer things. It's dramatic. Okay, with our progressions, here you can see the natal chart, and you can imagine some of the progressions, some you can't. Some you have to check it. Her progressed sun, her sun's in Leo. Her progressed sun's moved up to 27 Virgo. Okay, so in that process, when it was young, it conjuncted to Jupiter. Then it went over her Venus. Then it went over to Pluto. Then over to Uranus. Now it's at 27 degrees. And it's just about to be moving out of those signs. Yes, and within 2 or 3 years, it's going to move into Libra and change the focus from thinking to what's beautiful, what do I want, to being appreciated is going to be stronger. And that's the theme. So then you can get to that Pententious in the Pisces phase of that. But just, I would just, like, right now you're seeing the Virgo coming to the end of the Virgo and going into the Libra. So that's in itself is that's the most mutable. The most mutable point of the mutable signs is the last degree. It adapts to its extreme, and the most cardinal of the cardinal signs is the first degree. So the most mutable of the mutable becomes the cardinal of the cardinal at the equinoxes and solstices. At the equinox, yeah, at the equinoxes. And the fixed signs, it's the middle of the fixed signs that are the strongest. So let's see. Okay, so we're going to see this in more detail. We've got to organize this better. This is generally, the computer gives you this, and we get to print out some sequences. If you have the chart well and you got that well in your mind, then with progressions, you're always working to evolutions and movements from the natal chart, how this works out, how that works out. Okay, so in her chart, she always has the Neptune moon habits, and then She has to learn to think about it, overcome it, and then build up the Sun, Jupiter, higher understanding around how to hold it together anyways. Okay, so we're just gonna, you can see Neptune's only moved 1 degree. Mercury was at 17 in her natal chart. It's all the way over at 18. We moved a lot, so it hasn't gone to retrograde, that's for sure. But Venus, it's way back before it started, so it's been retrograde. It's in that retrograde zone. So these are some things to add into the inner qualities within this. But when the Sun goes into Libra 3 years, and another 6 years out, in 10 years, her progressed Sun goes into the first house and gets out of the 12th house and becomes a much more confident thing going into her own identity. That's something worth working to. It'll come in stages as it goes into the Libra, then as it goes over the ascendant, she's getting herself clear and getting her creative energy in place. So that's 10 years. Her transits, we watch 6 years, we see a couple of years and a half more, and then the Sun, shortly after that, the Sun will change into Virgo, into Libra, which will be a really distinct change of style, inwardly and from outwardly to inwardly. It won't be as analytical or critical, but it will tie into the Venus, change from the Mercury rulership of worry to the Venus of appreciation and love. And that's, Venus is still gonna, it's in Virgo, it still has a Virgo element to it, but she's still good. So I'm just loosely talking about the progressions here. The Mars has progressed up to Sag, so it's gone from Scorpio, 5 Scorpio up to 7 Sag. Okay, so it's finished opposing the Moon. And that now, the Saturn, it's at 9 degrees. It's retrograde. It started retrograde. It's still been retrograde. It's only gone back 3 degrees. The progressed Moon is up here. 29 is coming back to the lunar return. Progressed lunar return. And when you look at the progressed chart, there's 27 Libra, 27 Virgo, 27 Pisces. She's still in the waning full moon phase. It's after the full moon, but it's not quite the gibbous moon yet. She's still in the waning full moon phase of a progressed chart. And we'll have this confirmed. So I ran off the printouts, so it's a little smaller. Okay, so here you see, this is just the progressed moon to itself, progress to progress, so we get the phases of the moon. This gives us the conjunction, the turning points of each of the phases. So we look at 2016, November, there was the progressed full moon. Okay, that was her progressed full moon, and at 25 degrees of Pisces. Okay, now it's moved a few ways forward, so we knew the Sun was at 27, so it's moved a bit forward, but it's not out of this phase yet. It hasn't got the gibbous moon phase. The waning gibbous phase will start in 2021. So she's in this phase through this crisis time. The full moon phase is the inner energy that's happening outside of the big change. We saw the big changes, so this is how things happening with inside. There's still an inner illumination of seeing things, understanding the past and the future. Your progressions are your inner take. It's the inside, what you're changing inwardly against the background of what's happening outwardly, how you're growing through the things happening. And when we're doing this, I go in and this is in the search section of Matrix, and I go from in the search sections. This is under the searches. We're just doing the basic searches, but there's a section for reports where we can do reports. Another section for events, and under events we find eclipses, and it does the eclipses on the day you're born. But you have to have it set for. You have to reset the date on the worksheet to get the day you're born. Start from the day you're born, but it gives you eclipses for that year. So she's born July 31st. So here's these first 2 eclipses, April and May. There before she was born, they don't count. The first eclipse comes out October 18th of that year. It was at 24 degrees Aries, and that's a full moon eclipse. Well, she's still in Virgo. She's still her Sun would be in Libra. Sun would be in Aries, Moon would be in Libra. That's the full moon eclipse. She may or may not. That she has to be 30 years older before that full moon happens. She just passed this full moon. It's a whole nother 30-year cycle before it comes up to be an eclipse. So the eclipse isn't now, but it's good to know. But it is the full moon, and I want to take the moment to read the full moon phase. Because, see, when you go to progressions, it's giving you the inner affirmations to work with the outer circumstances. Waning full moon phase. Here we go. Okay. Okay, this is the first phase of the waning moon. Here the sun and the moon oppose each other, and the moonlight begins to wane. This period lasts for 3.5 years, days, but it's years and progressions after the exact full moon. The individual sense of freedom begins to be replaced by a need to belong. It's easy to feel alone and far away from others, but a new urge surfaces that wants to bridge that gap. The past and the future contrast each other. Every time you want to reach out, the past seems to hold you back. So, okay, so then, hold you back. Every time you try to hold back and rest contented, the future forces you to act. So you still got the Uranus moving, changing. There's a strong distinction between your family roots and your personal goals. That's the opposition. This distinction yields awareness. You know what you can or cannot do, who you can or cannot help. It's an instinct. And this is an instinct that's lasting. It's been the last couple of years, last 3 years. It's still going on for another year and a half. In this phase, inadequacies are exposed. Based on your awareness of vulnerabilities and shortcomings, you will take the initiative and adapt as needs demand. You will try to adjust to the requirements of the environment, but you must also make a strong effort to maintain your individuality. There will be times when you'll have difficulty concentrating, as you will be pulled in 2 directions. You try to maintain a certain sensitivity to both sides of your life. Every month around the full moon, you will find that your plans go out the window and are replaced by a sense of déjà vu. You will sense that something is going on around you and you might lose focus about what it actually is. It is important to be aware that you will go through these periods of irrationality or seeming lunacy, and that when you do this, it is probably the full moon. Now this, even on the monthly full moons, that probably will hit this nerve and bring that up. But this was written for the regular chart and regular timing, but this time we're looking over 30-year phases. So, but you could see this on the regular full moons and new moons going by, that this sensitivity would reinforce your feelings behind it.